Uspap page 22. Standard 2. V. Summarize the scope of work used to develop the appraisal. Asterisk comment. Because intended users' reliance on an appraisal may be affected by the scope of work. The report must enable them to be properly informed and not misled. Sufficient information includes disclosure of research and analyses performed and might also include disclosure of research and analyses not performed. When any portion of the work involves significant real property appraisal assistance, the appraiser must summarize the extent of that assistance. The names of those providing the significant real property appraisal assistance must be stated in the certification. In accordance with Standards Rule 2 to 3.35, v. Summarize the information analyzed, the appraisal methods and techniques employed, and the reasoning that supports the analyses, opinions, and conclusions. Exclusion of the sales comparison approach, cost approach, or income approach must be explained. Comment. An appraisal report must include sufficient information to indicate that the appraiser complied with the requirements of Standard 1. The amount of detail required will vary with the significance of the information to the appraisal. The appraiser must provide sufficient information to enable the client and intended users to understand the rationale for the opinions and conclusions, including reconciliation of the data and approaches, in accordance with Standards Rule 1 to 6. Opinion of market value. A summary of the results of analyzing the subject's sales, agreements of sale, options, and listings in accordance with Standards Rule 1 to 5 is required. 36. F. Such information as unobtainable. A statement on the efforts undertaken by the appraiser to obtain the when reporting information as required. If such information is irrelevant, a statement acknowledging the existence of the information and citing its lack of relevance as required. State the use of the real estate existing as of the date of value and the use of the real estate, X, reflected in the appraisal. When an opinion of highest and best use was developed by the appraiser, summarize the support, X, and rationale for that opinion. She, clearly and conspicuously. State all extraordinary assumptions and hypothetical conditions, and state that their use might have affected the assignment results. And XII, include a signed certification in accordance with Standards Rule 2 to 3. B. The content of the restricted appraisal report must be consistent with the intended use of the appraisal and, at a minimum, state the identity of the client. Unless the client has specifically requested otherwise. 37 and state a prominent use restriction that limits use of the report to the client and warns that the rationale for how the appraiser arrived at the opinions and conclusions set forth in the report may not be, I understood properly without additional information in the appraiser's work file. Comment. An appraiser must use care when identifying the client to avoid violations of the confidentiality section of the ethics rule. If a client requests that the client's identity be withheld from the report, the appraiser may comply with this request. In these instances, the appraiser must